What's going on, YouTube? This is Unger to the Max here. Salute! And this is episode 16 of Josh's Sports Vlogs. And tonight, even though I've changed the focus of my channel and I've gone to primarily be a Cavaliers, Blue Jackets, UFC, Jaguars, and Browns channel, this is a very, very important game tonight in the NBA, especially in the Eastern Conference. It is the Boston Celtics taking on the Toronto Raptors. Hang on 1 second. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so it is the Boston Celtics taking on the Toronto Raptors, the top two teams in the Eastern Conference. So, and both of these teams desperately want the number one seed. Why? Because they want to avoid potentially playing us, either in the second round, and they would rather play us in the Eastern Conference Finals with home court advantage, because we are pretty much locked into the number 3 seed. There's no way we're catching the Raptors or Celtics. But as of right now, the Raptors have home court advantage, and the Celtics are number 2. But the Raptors are coming off a loss last night against us. I was at that game. And I will be posting video from that game later on. Maybe not tonight, but later this week I will. But Kyle Lowry did not look good last night. I think he only had 5 points. And I think part of that was because on Monday, when was that? Yeah, Monday night, he was in San Antonio, so watching Villanova beat Michigan in the national championship. So I think that had something to do with it. But at the same time, DeRozan only had 17 points. He did not have his usual game, which it seems like these days he's been getting like 30 points a game or something like that. I haven't seen that. It seems like the two of them have been struggling. And I have said this throughout the season. This backcourt of Lowry and DeRozan can be one of the deadliest backcourts in the NBA. But at times, it seems like they disappear, primarily against the Cavaliers. It's like the Cavaliers are in their heads. Almost like, let me think. No, I don't want to say the boogeyman or whatever. Even though we beat them the last 2 years in the playoffs, swept the Raptors in the conference semifinals last year, and then beat the Raptor, and then beat them in 6 in the conference finals in 2016. But, of course, like I said, it is also Toronto is playing Boston. And this is a big game for Boston, too. They're 2 games down in the standings. They're 2 games behind the Raptors in the Eastern Conference standings. And Boston is currently leading the series 2-1. So, if Boston can win this game, then they would have this tiebreaker. So, say the 2 teams are tied at the end in the standings, Boston would get the tiebreaker by winning the season series. So this is a huge game, and both teams are coming off of losses yesterday. Boston lost at Milwaukee, and the Raptors lost at Cleveland. And as I said, I was at that game. So I'll show you a little bit of the game right now. And granted, I don't own any of the copyrighted footage that is being shown. Hang on 1 second. There we go. I'll turn up the volume a little bit. I'll be back in a couple minutes to keep going with my thoughts and analysis. In addition to watching or I'll talk about it more when I turn the screen back in a couple minutes. At the 8 minute mark, I'll turn the screen back. DeRozan's got to attack the basket. He's got. See, even though he made that shot, I feel like he's settling a little bit there. So, in addition to watching the Celtics Raptors, which, hang on, Boston is 1 for 6 to start the game on field goals. Toronto is 2 of 7. We'll make that. Boston goes up 7-5. But in addition to watching Celtics at Raptors, I am also watching Chicago, an NHL game, the Chicago Blackhawks at St. Louis Blues. This game does not affect the Columbus Blue Jackets in any way because both teams are in the Western Conference. So, and the Blue Jackets are in the Eastern Conference. So this game does not affect the Columbus Blue Jackets in any way, who have a big game coming up tomorrow against the Pittsburgh Penguins. But my point is that the main reason I'm talking about this Blackhawks Blues game is that even though Chicago is not going to make it to the playoffs, which, quick side note, this will be the first year since, I believe it was 1963, that the Stanley Cup playoffs will not have the Detroit Red Wings or the Chicago Blackhawks in it. I think that's right. I might be a little bit off. But the Blackhawks are trying to play the role as spoiler and prevent the St. Louis Blues from getting into the playoffs. But the main reason I'm talking about this game is because it's a rivalry. It's not the best rivalry in the NHL. That honor goes to Montreal against Boston. But Chicago and St. Louis is also a good rivalry. But my primary focus is Celtics Raptors. However, it's a commercial. But both teams are dealing with injuries right now because the Raptors are healthy. They just made a change in their starting lineup when their starting lineup at the top of the game was Jonas Valanciunas at center, Serge Ibaka at power forward, OG and Newbie or something at small forward, and then that backcourt duo of DeRozan and Lowry. I don't know anything about OG and Newbie or something. I'm not even sure where he's from. So, it'll be interesting to see how he plays. Neither team has shot the ball well so far. It's kind of sad, to be perfectly honest. I'll give you the box score so far. Actually, let me see if I can find more information about this OG guy. Like where he's from and all that. He might be a rookie, actually. I believe. Let's see here. Hang on. So some scores from around the league. Halftime from Detroit, or as Jalen Rose sometimes says, Detroit. It is the Philadelphia 76ers 65, the Detroit Pistons 49. The Cavaliers will be playing the Philadelphia 76ers in Philadelphia on Friday. in Orlando at the Amway Center. Oh, by the way, the Pistons Arena is called Little Caesars Arena. But in Orlando at Amway Center, in quarter number 3, it is the Orlando Magic 59, the Dallas Mavericks 53. Down in Atlanta, from the Phillips Arena, the Miami Heat and Atlanta Hawks are tied 36-36. And the game I'm doing right now, from Toronto, from Air Canada Center in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, is the Boston Celtics 9, the Toronto Raptors 7. Down in New Orleans, from the Smoothie King Center, it is the New Orleans Pelicans 17 and the Memphis Grizzlies 9. And the only other game happening tonight at 10:30, from Los Angeles, it will be the San Antonio Spurs taking on the Los Angeles Lakers at Staples Center. And Jonas Valanciunas puts it in, and it is 9-9. This is kind of pathetic. Boston is 3 of 9 on field goals. Toronto 4 of 11. It is 11-9 with about 5 minutes 50 seconds left. I'm sorry, but that's pathetic. That's a really pathetic score. Kyle Lowry for 3. That's good. And it's 12-11. So this game definitely impacts the Cavaliers. I can assure you that. That's a big part of the reason why I'm doing this game. Because of the impact this game has on the Cavaliers. Because it could determine who their second round opponent could be, who their Eastern Conference Finals opponent could be. Although I don't want to look that far ahead yet. Because you never know when a team could potentially prevent a favorite team from going to the second round or the third round. For example, I believe the Cavaliers could be matched up with the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, the 76ers did beat us in Cleveland, so I would be a little bit if that's the matchup, I would be concerned. Not about potentially losing the series. As a Cavaliers fan, I would personally be a little bit concerned about that matchup. Quick update, it's 1-0 Blue, St. Louis against Chicago. And in an earlier video, a little bit before this, I did a UFC pay-per-view updated schedule. And I just got an official notice saying that UFC 227 will be TJ Dillashaw against Cody Garbrandt. But anyway, Boston is 5 of 14 on field goals. Toronto 5 of 16. Make that 5 of 17. 13-12 Boston. Jaylen Brown, offensive foul drawn by, I believe it was DeRozan? No, Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry's actually gotten pretty good at drawing offensive fouls. Guess where Kyle Lowry went? Villanova. So you gotta think he was pretty excited about. You gotta admit, I bet you Kyle Lowry was pretty excited about the result on Monday. 2 titles in 3 years. That's impressive. So it's 13-12 now with about 3.5 minutes left. Make that 14-13. With approximately 3 minutes 20 seconds left. That's right. It is 14-13. That's pathetic. So, also, today is the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King being assassinated, so I'm going to do a moment of silence. Okay. Just wanted to do that. Because Martin Luther King was a very... Oh! The Hornets have made significant progress in talks with Mitch Kupchak to become their GM. But Martin Luther King was very influential. If he had never come along, we wouldn't have guys like LeBron James and Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, Magic Johnson. We wouldn't have those type of guys in the NBA. We would never have gotten Jackie Robinson and playing in Major League Baseball. So he was a very influential figure, and he was very influential. So, and we wouldn't have... Chicago just scored to tie it up. Chicago won, St. Louis won. Unfortunately, the last time I did a Blue Jackets vlog, the Blues ended the Blue Jackets 10-game winning streak. So that left me feeling blue, because St. Louis won that game 2-1. Ugh. Ay. So that was disappointing. But anyway, the current standings in the Eastern Conference go like this. Hang on 1 second. Okay, so number 1 is Toronto. Number 2 is Boston, two games behind. Number 3 is us, the Cavaliers, 7.5 games behind. Number 4 are the Philadelphia 76ers, 8 games behind. Number 5 are the Indiana Pacers, 9.5 games behind. Number 6 is the Miami Heat, 13.5 games behind. Number 7 are the Washington Wizards, 13.5 games behind. And number 8 are the Milwaukee Bucks, also 13.5 games behind. And Toronto, Boston, Cleveland, Philadelphia, Indiana, Miami, and Washington, so the first 7 teams, have all clinched playoff spots. Milwaukee has not clinched a playoff spot yet. And then in the Western Conference, this is how the standings go. Number 1 are the Houston Rockets. Number 2 are the Golden State Warriors. Number 3 are the Portland Trailblazers. Number 4 is the Utah Jazz. Number 5 are the San Antonio Spurs. Number 6 is the Oklahoma City Thunder, although they should still be in Seattle. Never should have left, but it's Howard Schultz's fault. Number 7 are the Minnesota Timberwolves. Oh! Saturday Primetime is coming back with a good matchup, Thunder Rockets. And then number 8, the New Orleans Pelicans. Only the Houston Rockets, Golden State Warriors, and Portland Trailblazers have clinched a playoff spot. Nobody else in the Western Conference has clinched a playoff spot yet. So there's still some time. So it is 17-14 Boston. Hang on, gotta take care of this. Hold on. Okay, there we go. 17-14 Boston with about 2 minutes remaining in the first quarter. Yeah, I did silence there on purpose, in case you were wondering. How is the score 19-14? Do I think the Suns can make a move for Kawhi? No. I don't think he's done in San Antonio. It's just a really weird situation. I believe he's only played like 4 or 5 games this whole season, and then it's like San Antonio shut him down for the remainder of the season. So, when they make it to the playoffs, they only have LaMarcus Aldridge, so I'm not sure how far they can really go. But the Suns have the worst record in the NBA. They have not made the playoffs since 2010. But they have some talent and some promising players like Devin Booker, Josh Jackson, Tyler Ulis, Alex Len. They have guys who can play, but they can't seem to get it together. Marquise Chris. They just can't. Phoenix just can't seem to get it together and they have the worst record. Most likely, they're gonna get the number one pick in the NBA draft, but it all depends on what happens with the lottery. But we'll see. But speaking of the Suns, the Hall of Fame class got announced for the NBA the other day, and I don't know all the people that are getting inducted, but I do know some of them. Steve Nash, Grant Hill, Jason Kidd, Maurice Cheeks. Those four right there, that is a great Hall of Fame class. My favorite player out of that group was Steve Nash. Nash, I wish he had won an NBA championship during his career, but unfortunately he didn't. But he won an MVP. He was one of the by no means was Steve Nash the greatest ball handler of all time. I'm not going to go that far, but I would say he was one of the better ball handlers in the NBA. Would you agree with that? That Steve Nash is one of the better ball handlers. I don't think he's the best ball handler of all time, but I think he's one of the better. And then you have Jason Kidd, who was also a great point guard. And he did win an NBA title with the Dallas Mavericks in 2011. But he had a great career when he was with New Jersey. Although granted they're in Brooklyn now, but that's not important. He seemed to come up big in clutch shot. In the clutch. Although, that's where Chauncey Billups' specialty is. On a side note, because he was called Mr. Big Shot. But Jason Kidd was also a good player in the clutch. Who do I think will make the finals and who will win? Yeah, it's hard to say right now because the Warriors are, yes, their players are coming back from injury, but still, they're not going to have the number one seed in the Western Conference playoffs, and the Cavaliers aren't going to have the top seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs either. Granted, Golden State will be number 2, and the Cavaliers will be number 3, but still. So, we might not get the Cavaliers and Warriors for round 4. But, geez, it's 20-14. But to answer your question, I would say the the NBA Finals matchup will be until something changes and until another team steps up and prevents it from happening, I've got to go with Warriors Cavaliers round 4. And I just don't think, even though the Cavaliers have made the trades and made some decent free agency moves, I don't think Calderon, Hood, Clarkson, or George Hill, no offense to any of those guys, but they can't stand in front of Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. So I think the Warriors could win that series in potentially a sweep, maybe 5. But do I personally want that matchup to happen? No. even though I'm a Cavaliers fan and I would love to get revenge on the Warriors for last season, I'm thinking about this as an NBA fan as well. I want a different matchup that's fresh. Like, yes, we had Celtics Lakers, but that was in 2008 and 2010. Like, yes, the Lakers were in the finals 3 straight years, but and two of them were against the Celtics, but they were different series each time. It feels like 2015 and 2016 were pretty much the same, except for who won, and Kyrie not getting injured in 2016. So there were a couple differences. Okay. But overall, I feel like the 2015 and 2016 series the 2015 and 2016 series between the Cavaliers and Warriors were the same. And I feel like if the Warriors and Cavaliers play each other again this year, the series is going to be almost identical to the 2017 series. That's why I want a different matchup. Like possibly Cavaliers Rockets, or maybe Celtics Warriors, or Celtics Rockets, or Raptors Rockets, or Raptors Warriors. Something like that. Or maybe I know it's most likely not going to happen, but what about Cavaliers Trailblazers, or Celtics Trailblazers, or Raptors Trailblazers? I think Portland has the pieces in place to possibly make a finals run, but here's the thing: they don't have, because they have a deadly backcourt of Lillard and McCollum. But the problem is they don't have a good small forward to match up with Durant or LeBron. So that's the problem, and that's what could hold Portland back. So the field goal percentage in the first half: Boston 42%, Toronto 26%. Toronto 14 points in the first half, in the first quarter. Season low for them. So it's 20-14, and Boston ended the quarter on a 7-0 scoring run. Terry Rozier left wide open, and here comes Fred VanVleet from Wichita State. Wichita State has been a good team in college basketball for the past few years, but I feel like they kind of peaked out early a couple years ago, and they haven't been able to be the same team since. But with Jose, you mentioned earlier that you want the Suns to get DeAndre Ayton. Is that mostly because he went to the University of Arizona and you just want him to stay with the Suns organization? Or do you honestly think that he would be a good fit with the Phoenix Suns? That's what I want to know. Great pass by CJ Miles to Jakob Hurtle for the layup. Jakob Hurtle from the University of Utah. He's kind of a mix, I would say, between the traditional center and the new generation of center and big man, I would say. And what I mean by the new generation of big man is guys like Kevin Love, or who else? Who else? It could be a good fit. I don't know if it would be amazing right away, even though Phoenix does have Booker, Warren, and Jackson. But I don't know if it would be an amazing fit right away for Phoenix. Because they drafted Dragan Bender thinking he would be a great piece, and he hasn't really turned into anything. Jeez. The Raptors put up 79 points against the Cavaliers a few weeks ago in Cleveland on ESPN on a Wednesday, and yet they blew the lead, and we were able to come back and win. Jeez. But somehow the Cavaliers came back. Why? Mostly because Toronto tuned out, I would say. And the Cavaliers have LeBron. Okay, that's cool, broken, unpredictable gamer. I am a Cavaliers fan, number one, because I live here, and number two, I grew up a Cavaliers fan. But I'm also a general NBA fan. So, and the NBA is my all-time favorite sport. Not even close. It's 20-19. That's cool, actually, broken, unpredictable gamer. I'm being seen on your TV. It's 20-19 now. And we're in the second quarter. I'm sorry, but that is pathetic. You live in Cleveland, but you like the Suns. Why do you like the Suns? Did you grow up liking the Suns, or is this just a new thing, Jose? Jason Tatum, it's 22-19 Boston. So about 9 minutes remain in the first half, and this has been a pathetic game so far. It's 22-19. That is not supposed to be a second quarter score. These two, I think it's partially because both teams are on the second night of a back-to-back. As I said, the Cavaliers beat the Raptors last night in Cleveland, and the Celtics lost in Milwaukee. I believe the score was like 116-111 or something like that. Greg Monroe makes the layup, and it's 24-19. About 6.5 minutes left. And I'll actually let you watch the game for a little bit. So, I'll be back. But I'll let you watch the game right now for a couple minutes. Let you listen to Mike Breen for a little bit. And let you listen to Mike Breen and Doris Burke. Nice block by Al Horford. I've never been able to figure out why the TV screen is so blurry, so my apologies for that. And there's Drake. I'll be back when it gets to 7 minutes, 30 seconds. Greg Monroe, 7 points, 3 of 4 on field goals, 6 rebounds. Started his career with the Detroit Pistons, traded to Milwaukee. Thursday, Cavaliers, Washington at Cavaliers. That is going to be a big matchup. And then Friday, Cavaliers at Philadelphia. That's also going to be a big matchup. Actually, I'll go a little bit longer than 7:30. I'll go to the 7-minute mark of letting you watch the basketball game. Nice layup. Offensive explosion is relative, Mike Breen. Very relative. Yeah, this has been a very uh, lackluster game so far, I would say. Honestly, it's been a defensive battle, I will say that, but it's been lackluster offensively. Blues and Blackhawks still tied 1-1. So there's that. I am a big Blue Jackets NHL fan, specifically the Columbus Blue Jackets fan. Columbus Blue Jackets. I really got in. Okay. About a minute 50 left in the first period. Blues and Blackhawks tied 1-1 on Wednesday Night Rivalry on NBCSN. Ooh, that's gonna be John Cena in a new movie, Blockers. Cena never got The Undertaker to respond on Monday Night Raw, so it looks like he'll be going to WrestleMania as a fan. And there are going to be some good matchups at WrestleMania. The main event, Lesnar, Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. You got Charlotte Flair facing the undefeated Asuka. AJ Styles facing Shinsuke Nakamura for the WWE Championship. Oh yeah, Charlotte Flair and Asuka are facing off for the SmackDown Women's Championship. You got Alexa Bliss facing Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship. Ronda Rousey is making her debut with Kurt Angle against Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. So that's going to be interesting. What's up? Nice. Oh, that's fun, isn't it? Yeah, so it's going to be a good event on Sunday. I'm also excited for Saturday. Max Holloway's going up in weight class to face Khabib Nurmagomedov for the UFC Lightweight Championship, and then Rose Namajunas against Joanna Jędrzejczyk in a rematch of UFC 217. So this weekend's gonna be a good weekend for UFC and wrestling. It's gonna be a very good event weekend. 1 minute remaining between the Blues and Blackhawks. So this power play for St. Louis will carry over into the second period. But as I said, the primary focus is Celtics and Raptors. However, it is a commercial break. But as I said, Kyle Lowry struggled a lot last night. Only 5 points, I believe. That's all he had last night. Do I think that who's my MVP in the NBA? You know, I was actually having a discussion about this earlier in the day with my dad, because if a Cavaliers fan would say, you gotta give it to LeBron. But realistically, that doesn't make sense, because the way he's played in most seasons, you would give it to LeBron every year. But that just doesn't make sense. So, this year, I gotta give it to James Harden. Look at where the Rockets are. They're the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Yeah, I agree with you. It's James Harden. Yes, he has Chris Paul, so that adds to it. But at the same time, everybody was saying that the Warriors were going to be the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, even though Houston had gotten Chris Paul. That hasn't been the case. So it's got to be James Harden, even though it seems like James Harden quits on defense sometimes. And CJ Miles for 3, no. This is pathetic. It is 28-26 with about 6 minutes remaining in the first half. Really? That is like one of the lowest scoring first halves I have ever seen. So what's the final score at the end of the game going to be? 59-52? Okay, so Rookie of the Year, people are going to say it's Ben Simmons, which makes sense because he didn't play at all last year, so he got injured. But for me, even though Ben Simmons has played exceptionally well, and the 76ers are back in the playoffs for the first time since, like, Kyle Lowry, wow, he actually made a freaking layup. It's a miracle. 32-26. But I gotta say, my rookie of the year is Donovan Mitchell. Because, let me explain. The reason is because in Philadelphia, Ben Simmons is not having to carry the team. He has Joel Embiid, who is taking some of the scoring pressure off of him. Whereas in Utah, Gordon Hayward left to go to Boston. Hopefully he recovers fully and is able to play for the Celtics next season. Because if you remember, he broke his ankle in the first game of the year against the Cavaliers in Cleveland. But anyway, Donovan Mitchell has pretty much had to carry the Utah Jazz to where they are now, which is 4th place in the Western Conference. So I value that tremendously. So that's why I would give the Rookie of the Year award to Donovan Mitchell. And I understand that Ben Simmons is getting triple doubles left and right now. But to me, it's not as impressive because, first off, Russell Westbrook averaged an MVP or averaged a triple double last season. Number 2, like I said, Ben Simmons isn't having to carry the load by himself. Although Joel Embiid has gotten injured at times during the season. But overall, it's been Embiid and Ben Simmons sharing the load for Philadelphia. Whereas, as I said, Donovan Mitchell is pretty much having to carry the Utah Jazz on his back. Kind of like when LeBron pretty much carried the Cavaliers to the 2007 NBA Finals, where we absolutely got hammered against the San Antonio Spurs. But that's my point. That Mitchell... Okay, I get that the Jazz that Utah has a much better record when Rudy Gobert is on the court. I will agree with that. But he's not Utah's primary scorer. Because he's not really a scorer. That's not his role. He's a defender and a rebounder mostly. So that's why I'm saying Donovan Mitchell still, because Gobert's not the one carrying the scoring load for Utah. It's Donovan Mitchell. So Toronto's 55-22, Boston's 53-24. Chicago, Atlanta, at Washington, Brooklyn. That's the remaining schedule for Boston. And then the remaining schedule for the Toronto Raptors. Let me see what Siri has to say about it. Hey Siri, what is the upcoming schedule for the Toronto Raptors? After tonight's game, the Raptors have the Pacers at home, Orlando at home, at Detroit, at Miami. So Toronto has 3 playoff teams remaining on their schedule: Indiana, Detroit, Indiana and Miami. So actually 2. 2 playoff teams and 2 non-playoff teams. Hey Siri, what's the upcoming schedule for the Boston Celtics? Whereas the Boston Celtics, after tonight, have to play the Chicago Bulls, the Atlanta Hawks, at the Washington Wizards, and the Brooklyn Nets. So Toronto only has to play 2 non-playoff teams. Boston is playing 3, and all of them are at home. And Boston's one game against a playoff team is against the Washington Wizards on the road. So Boston definitely has the easier schedule. But Boston could let their guard down against Chicago, Atlanta, or Brooklyn and potentially lose one of those games. Not very likely, but it could happen. You never know. So Boston's has the easier schedule, but this is probably the biggest game remaining for both these teams, the Celtics and Raptors tonight, because neither of them play the Cavaliers again. Cavaliers won the season series against Toronto last night 2-1, and the Cavaliers won the season series against Boston 2-1. So that's the one good thing. But anyway, it's 32-26 Toronto with about 4 minutes remaining. Oh, nice dunk, putback dunk. I believe that was DeLon Wright for Toronto. And it is 34-26 with about 3:55 remaining in the first half. 34-26. That is one of the most lethargic first halves I have ever seen. Seriously, a first half score of 34-26, and these are the top two teams in the Eastern Conference. I'm sorry, but that's terrible. That's terrible. No, that's horrific. Like I said, the Raptors put up 79 points against the Cavaliers the other day. And then they come back and only score 34 points in the first half at home against the Boston Celtics team that doesn't have Kyrie Irving. What? I don't get it. It's 34-28, Al Horford going to the free throw line. And I will be doing this to the end of the first half. And hopefully I'll be doing this for the second half as well. We'll see. So 3:38 left in the first half. Horford's free throw is up and good. Al Horford went to the University of Florida. I believe he was part of the 2007 national championship team when the Gators beat Ohio State. I don't think he was part of the 2006 team that won the national championship against UCLA. Joakim Noah was on that 2007 and 2016. But he hasn't done anything in a while. He played for both the Bulls, and then the Knicks got released from the Knicks, and he hasn't been heard from again. So it's 34-29, Toronto. And again, Lowry's not playing that well. Oh, and right as I say that, Kyle Lowry hits a jump shot, and it's 36-29. Still, that is like an under-delivery in a first half between the top two teams in the Eastern Conference. Oh, DeLon Wright makes a layup, and it's 38-29. So the Raptors go up by 9. But this is the... Honestly, it's kind of a boring first half. But it's still a good battle that matters for as a Cavalier fan. So, oh, nice passing. But Toronto wasn't able to do anything with it. Oh, yes, they were. Serge Ibaka makes the hook shot, and it's 40-29. So Toronto at least has a score that at least emulates what a first half score should be. Toronto already has 22 points off turnovers. Boston only has 2. Toronto might be starting to find their groove here. The only problem, there's approximately a minute 40 left in the first half. So Toronto might be finding their groove a little early or a little late, whichever way you look at it. DeRozan hits the three-pointer, 43-29. Timeout Boston. The Raptors have suddenly come alive. And I think I just heard that it's like a 13-3 scoring run for Toronto. A minute 30 left now. And it's the end of the first period. It's probably still 1-1 between the Blues and Blackhawks. So I heard some. I know I've mentioned this a few times, but I want to bring it up again. Stephen A. Smith the other day said something interesting, which was this. If Damian Lillard were playing as well as he is right now, but for a team in the Eastern Conference, he would be in the MVP consideration. But the reason he's not is because Portland is on the West Coast, so most of his games fans don't get to see because his games start at like 10 o'clock. It's the same problem that Christian McCaffrey had when he was in the Heisman Trophy consideration, because he was definitely worthy of being in the Heisman Trophy consideration, but he didn't. Not enough people got to watch him play because he played for Stanford, and Stanford is on the West Coast. Oh, it's a 20-3 run for Toronto right now. So that does bother me a little bit, because Lillard is definitely worthy of being in the MVP conversation. But it hurts him that he's playing in Portland. But by no means am I saying Portland should go out and trade Damian Lillard to a team in the Eastern Conference like New York or somebody like that. No way am I saying that. Portland would not be where they are if they did not have Damian Lillard, even if they had CJ McCollum. But my point is, all I'm saying is, due to him being on the West Coast, he doesn't get the MVP consideration I believe he should be getting. 35.1 seconds remaining. 43-31. Toronto. It honestly is frustrating that Lillard can't get MVP consideration more. But it's not his fault. It's just because it's number one, because of where Portland is, and number two, his games start late. So who's going to stay up at 10 o'clock to watch his games? Jason Tatum makes the jump shot to make it 43-33. So both teams' offenses came alive a little bit, but not much. So about 15 seconds left. 43-33 Toronto leads. And I think part of the reason this first half was slow was, again, because both teams were on the road last night for the first part of their back-to-back. And Boston is on the road again for the second part of the back-to-back. But Toronto is at home, so in the second half they could get going. We'll see. But for now, I hope you enjoyed watching this first half sports vlog video between the top two teams in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Celtics and Toronto Raptors. If you did, punch that like button like a UFC fighter and punch that subscribe button. I am taking a break for halftime, but I will see you in the second half. So windy, right? Yeah, it is windy. But I will see you in the second half. Hang on. There we go.